After spending 7 years with the WWF, head writer of 2 years, Vince Russo, would leave the company. Following a dispute with Vince over the increased workload after SmackDown made its debut in August of 1999, Russo provided the WWF with several ideas that contributed to winning the Monday Night Wars. He also contributed to a lot of shoddy ideas, like the 1998 Brawl for All, or the notorious Kennel from Hell match between Snow and Bossman.
Try not to get one of them paws stuck in your teeth.
Russo was known for the Crash TV style of booking. Crash TV focused more on fast-paced, edgier storylines, which was known for non-wrestling segments, constant heel and face changes, fake retirements, and a lot of title belt changes. At the end of 1999, WCW, Eric Bischoff, and executives failed to capitalize on its mid-card roster, focusing efforts towards main eventers like Hogan, Nash, Goldberg, and Ric Flair. This would lead to a lot of talent to jump ship by mid-2000. Bischoff would be officially let go on September 10th, 1999. Turner Sports executives Harvey Schiller replaced Bischoff with former Turner accountant Bill Bush. Due to Bush's minimal knowledge of wrestling, he put TV producer Craig Leathers in charge. Inspired by Bischoff's decision of hiring 2 ex-WWF wrestlers, that being Nash and Hall, Bush would offer a deal to Vince Russo and longtime writing partner Ed Ferrara to join WCW after Russo had a meeting with officials. On October 3rd, 1999, Russo and Ferrara were signed with WCW, and on October 18th, the two would implement 3 distinct changes to WCW, bringing the Crash TV style back, phasing out old talent, and giving younger underutilized talent more opportunity. The first WCW Nitro under the new creative directors had a substantial rating increase to 3.3. This short-lived success would later evolve into an increased frustration towards Russo. Bam Bam Bigelow would state in the book The Death of WCW, where he said, "Russo was the worst. He didn't know what the hell he was doing." In the same book, Jerry Jarrett stated that he refused a job at WCW on 5 different occasions, knowing it was destined to fail. Jarrett called Russo's WCW a horrible hodgepodge, and it was like reading a book by someone on LSD. Despite this, Russo and Ferrara stood convinced that they were saving WCW, citing their decision to make Bret Hart WCW champion and giving Benoit a main event push. In January of 2000, Russo received some frightening news. Bret Hart would suffer an injury following a match with Goldberg, resulting in him declaring retirement, which meant he would be unable to wrestle on January 16th's pay-per-view, Sold Out. Russo would come up with his worst idea yet. He wanted to have a Rumble-style match to determine the new champion. The winner would be UFC fighter Tank Abbott, citing his UFC credentials as enough for him to be champion. By 2000, Abbott held a record of 8-7 in the UFC. Tank was known for his brawlic powerhouse fighting style that was intimidating and brutal. He reminded me a lot more of a fit Butterbean. Tank Abbott was originally brought in during a feud with Goldberg, claiming him as a legitimate fighter to go against him. His push sold poorly to the crowd, lacking the credentials of being world champion. Russo, however, insisted on the push, leading to Bill Bush stepping in and cutting Russo's plan short. He then insisted that Russo would need to join a booking committee to filter out his ideas. Russo refused and left the company. Russo's position would be filled by a longtime creative team member, Kevin Sullivan. To Bill Bush, Sullivan was going to save the business. This conflicted with soon-to-be champion Chris Benoit, who had just recently had an affair with Kevin's ex-girlfriend Nancy. This was the reason Radicals left WCW at the time that they did. Sullivan's last pay-per-view as head writer was at Uncensored 2000, which was criticized as one of the worst WCW pay-per-views ever created, bringing in an attendance of just 5,000. Following this pay-per-view, Sullivan was demoted, Bill Bush actually resigned and was replaced by Brad Siegel, and Eric Bischoff got rehired. On an April 10th, 2000 episode of Monday Night Nitro, Russo would make his in-ring debut for the first time as an on-screen antagonist authority figure, scripting Bischoff and Russo as allies, when in reality the two heavily disagreed with one another. Russo would be put into several storylines, including a feud with Ric Flair that ended in the shaving of Ric and Reed Flair's head, and Russo even had a short reign as WCW champion, which only added to Russo's power trip. Hogan would defeat Nash in a retirement match at Road Wild to retain the world title. Injuries and frustrations led to an absence from television from October of '99 to February 2000. According to Hogan, he was asked to take time off by Russo and wasn't given a time frame on his return. Hogan's return on October 24th's Halloween Havoc was a match with Sting. Traditionally, the challenger is supposed to enter first. Hogan was the challenger and his music was played first. However, Hogan didn't come out. Sting would then come out before Hogan. Hogan's music played for a second time. He came into the ring with street clothes on and laid down for the pin and left. The shame and distraught on Hogan's face could make the viewer question the possible breach of kayfabe. Eric Bischoff revealed in an interview that he was mourning the loss of his father at the time.
And we had, I think the pay-per-view was the day after my father's funeral, and I had to fly from Minneapolis into wherever it was, Daytona Beach, I think is where it was, but because of that, I got in late.
Leaving Russo with full control of writing for the upcoming pay-per-view, Bash at the Beach. Russo's plan for Bash at the Beach was for upcoming star Booker T to win the WCW title. Hogan would be put in a match with Jeff Jarrett. He would lose to Jarrett, and later that night, Jarrett would lose to Booker. Growing frustrations with Hogan imploded as Hogan would file legal action.
Eric comes up to me, Vince, you've got to go in the trailer and talk to Hogan. He's not going to do the match. 2 days ago, I got a call from Johnny Ace that he agreed to do this match. What are you talking about? Now, what I found out later through depositions and whatnot is very late on Friday, Hogan's attorney sent a fax to the office, because remember, Hulk had creative control, after hours that Hogan wasn't going to do the match.
Hogan's WCW contract contained a creative control clause, which stated that Hogan shall have approval over the outcome of all wrestling matches in which he appears, wrestles, and performs in, such approval not to be reasonably withheld. This would be the only time in Hogan's WCW career to use this clause. Hogan was pissed and wanted to leave that night as the champion.
You know, Vince could come up with ideas, but we had to both agree, and if we didn't, then Brad Siegel was the tiebreaker. Let's go into the trailer, get on the phone, we'll call Brad Siegel, we'll see what we're going to do.
Russo came up with a plan. He told Hogan that he would let him win the title, after which Russo would do a scathing promo on Hogan. In order for the plan to work, Russo told both Hogan and Bischoff to leave the arena that night. He then made a promise to Hogan that he would call to settle things on Monday. The promo played as Michael Buffer called it the main event of the evening, announcing Jarrett to enter in first. Jarrett took quite a bit of time to come out, resulting in Russo to actually come out before him. Jarrett would finally enter after. Hogan would come out and demand Jarrett to enter the ring. Eventually, the bell rang, but instead of locking up, Jarrett immediately lay down. Hogan looked at the down Jarrett in bewilderment. Russo would show Hogan the belt, chucked it into the ring, and just left. Infuriated, Hogan took the mic and stated this.
Is this your deal, Russo? That's why this company's in the damn shape it's in, because of bullshit like this.
Hogan put his foot over Jarrett, pinned for the 3 count, and walked off the stage. The last shot of Hogan on WCW programming was when Vampiro walked into the arena, ignoring Hogan as he exited. The whole fiasco confused everyone. The announcers stood shocked and insisted that this was not part of the production meeting. Jarrett himself admitted he didn't know until immediately before the match what he had to do. However, this was part of the plan the whole time.
I said, now you and Eric have to leave the building in a huff, cutting a promo on me to all the boys in the back. That son of a bitch. You have to leave the building because I have to go back out to the ring later on and cut a scathing promo on you.
What Hogan and Bischoff didn't know was how exactly Russo was going to cut the scathing promo. Hogan originally pitched the idea that he would return later in the year as the real champion and face whoever had the title in a champion v champion match. That never happened. Russo would come out about a match later to shoot the promo. He made a point that he had done nothing but deal with the bullshit of the politics backstage, insisting that the reason he came back was for the people that actually busted their asses in the company, like Booker T and, unlike Hulk Hogan. Russo would continue to make a point that Hogan was playing politics, utilizing his creative control clause. He then condemned Hogan.
Hogan got his wish. Hogan got his belt and he went the hell home, and I promise everybody, or else I'll go in the goddamn grave. You will never see that piece of shit again.
He then goes off talking about how Hogan's WCW belt doesn't mean shit and should be considered as the Hulk Hogan Memorial Belt. He then grants the title back to Jeff Jarrett, booking the real main event, Booker T versus Jeff Jarrett, ending the speech by calling Hogan a bald son of a bitch. Despite fan backlash for the cut promo that winded up confusing a lot of viewers, this Russo promo was considered genuinely one of the best promos to be featured on WCW programming in a very long time. Executive Brad Siegel contacted Russo that Monday, telling Russo to not reach out to Hogan cause he's being let go. The main reason being his cost per appearance, and I quote, "Hogan's contract paid him 25% of gross ticket revenues for every episode of Nitro and Thunder he appeared at and wrestled on, and he would be paid no less than $25,000 for each of those episodes." Feeling betrayed by WCW, Hogan sought litigation for defamation of character, suing WCW for breaching the contract. The trial court concluded that BOLLEA could not prove by clear and convincing evidence that Russo's statements were made with actual malice. NWCW's counterclaim contended that BOLLEA breached his contract by refusing to wrestle at the March 18th, 2001 pay-per-view event. The lawsuit was later thrown out. Hogan would appeal for the second attempt that ended with the same result. Russo would continue to be part of WCW until that October when he suffered a head-on collision with a ringside barrier in a match with Goldberg. WCW would buy out Russo's contract as his career would move towards a different promotion. The Bash at the Beach was one of those spectacles that foreshadowed the demise of the company, and by this point, WCW had lost the Monday Night Wars, dozens of talented performers, and was already being seen as a failed experiment by Turner Broadcasting that considered the brand as to be out of line with its image, leaving WWE to acquire most of WCW Inc. Thanks for watching, guys.